Hello and welcome to Stockton Junction. Today's video is going to be a quick ballasting video to show you how I do my ballasting, and on the next video following this, once all the ballasting is done, I'll be doing how I do my weathering. So I shall get on and show you how I do it. Use for a lot of the straight track work, I'll use one of these. This is the Proz's one. It's an HO one, but it works perfectly for this, and it's very simple. So I've put my ballast in a little tub for now. You can just, I like to be a bit accurate when I'm filling it, so I don't want it to go sort of everywhere. And these are very simple to use. Just keep firm pressure on it. You can go back a couple of times. There's nothing wrong with just keep going along until it's empty, or until you've got to a section that you need to stop at. And that's pretty much laid most of the ballast, so we've got a little bit of tidying up to do and a little bit of work to do on it. So first thing I'm going to do is the center line, because what I don't want is ballast on the sleepers. I mean, that's just personal. And I'm just going to rub that down with my fingers. I find it's easier with a finger. If you use a brush, I do find the brush will get inside these, and actually sometimes it can actually take some of the ballast out that you don't want to move. I would rather spend twice as long preparing it before I do put any glue down, and have it exactly how I want it, rather than have to take it up later because I'm not happy with it. Just move that out the way. So I'm just going to carry on down there. A lot of people use the technique like that. Which does work as well. I sometimes do that if I have still got some excess that I need to move. But it's also very useful, the spoon technique, for point work. So we've done that, but the shoulders still need, just trying to get the camera, sorry, just trying to get the camera a little bit better for you. As you can see, this shoulder here isn't quite right, so what I do for that is I use the spoon and literally just put some in, and I'll go along like this, just tapping it on the edge of the track to lay some ballast. As you can see, I've still got this back one here to do that edge on. I wanted to leave that until this rail, these tracks were all put in where I wanted them. So I'm not worried too much about putting too much on at this point, because I'm going to fill that gap, and I'll just do this little bit of this back one. You see how the spoon method, I've not actually got any in this track, and it's quite good. And then literally I'm just going to gently rub my finger, pushing it away from the rail to get that and then if there's any patches like there is there, you can see a bit of the cork. I'm just going to gently tap that, and I'll do this side. And mainly sort of getting my finger on the edge of the rail like that, and then tilting it slightly just so that I'm rubbing the ends of the sleepers and nothing else. So again, I'm not touching anything that's between the sleepers, only and then this section, obviously I want to put a little bit in the middle. Not want to look too deep there. And use the spoon gently just to angle it how I want it. So basically that is how I would set up on my track. I won't obviously do the whole bit, but as you can see, it's pretty good. There's obviously I'm going to go over, just get any small bits off before I put any glue. But to be honest, that bit there is pretty much how I would do it, and that's for me is ready to be glued in. So the one thing that puts a lot of people off ballasting their layouts is obviously the point work. Now this point here isn't going to actually be a used point, but I'm going to do it in the exact same principle of how I would do it if it was my points on my layout. So again, it's alright, done that wrong already. I wouldn't use the Proz's tool for this. What I tend to do is do it by hand like so, rub it, and this is actually where the spoon technique comes into its own, because there are some parts of this that you just cannot get in with your finger to rub. Right, so as you can see, this isn't taking me very long at all. And then we'll go through what bits you've got to be careful with in a minute. So obviously here we do not want any ballast in between from there to there. So that's another reason why I've done it by hand like so, because you make sure that then that you're not getting anywhere you don't want it. So what I've done, obviously there's a little bits in between there that are harder to get to, so this is where we tap our points. You'll also notice there was quite a bit of ballast in between there, in between the sections where you don't want any, and most of that has now come out. So because you do not want anything between these bits, because when it dries in there, that will cause derailments, running issues. So if you get any more bits where you need a bit more, put a little bit in, give it a tap, get the excess off. Literally, it might take a bit longer, but that, it's hard to see it on the video, is looking pretty spot on. So I would just continue doing all the inside edges coming out, obviously, and then we go to do the outside as well, just the same as what we did before on the main track. With one exception, obviously here, if you've got you're going to have points, you do not want to get any in that last little bit there, if it's going to get in the way of the points moving. So what I tend to do, obviously this one's not actually going to be moving, but as I put it in, move the point, make sure it's really free before I put any glue in that area, so that I know there's nothing going to be sticking that's going to foul that point up. But obviously for the area I'm doing here, it's not actually going to be a problem. Anyway, I will just set my camera up 2 seconds. I do apologise. So I'm not going to go into obviously doing the whole thing, because obviously it'd get rather time consuming and boring. And yeah, I could do a fast forward video, but personally I don't like those. I think they're a bit boring as well. I can show you the end result when I've finished on my next update video. But anyway, so the next thing you'd want to do is I use my isopropyl 70% alcohol, and then I've got my glue. I'm just going to get set up a little bit better. I'll try and give you a better angle on this as well, so that you can actually see what's happening. So, right, so I've got my big tub of glue, which I'm just going to open. Ready? I'm using one of these pipettes. It's quite a big one, and I've got my isopropyl in the spray bottle. Now, people can use water, do use water for this. I don't prefer the water because the alcohol actually helps the glue flow better than water does. So from a distance, I'm just going to spray nice and gently. This has got a nice spray on it, very fine misting. And then literally I'm going to do my 50-50 with my Mod Podge and water with 2 or 3 drops of washing up liquid, because it's a big pot. And we're just going to flow that. And I always start with the centre bit and then the edges, because what I find is as the glue settles, it starts to obviously go down and out to the sides anyway, so it just makes it a lot easier. And the good thing about these pipettes is you can flow that glue pretty well controlled, as you can see, but without actually it doesn't actually splatter or bang at the ballasting. The ballasting stays exactly where it is with that alcohol spray first as well, which helps that do that. And give that a nice decent coat, and that's done. Now that will be perfect. If you do find that you've got a bit where there's a bit too much glue, I mean, that will dry and soak quite well. But if we look, you can see just on the left there is a bit gluey, and the same over on the right. So I'm just going to get my isopropyl and give that a little spray, and that will actually help that to flow down, because it's just obviously where it's not got so much of the alcohol sprayed onto it. And as you can see, it's starting to pour out the side here where it's flowed from there, the excess. And that's basically how I do it. It's very easy, and if a little bit time consuming to do it the way I do it, but I feel that obviously for the long stretch in the middle, that's pretty quick, but when it comes to points and all the edges, I always do a lot of work with my hands, and I don't mind spending 3 hours ballasting maybe all of this bit and all of the next bit, etc., by hand like that, because I know that when I put my glue on, it's not going to move and it's going to stay exactly how I've left it. So I want it to be perfect before I put any glue in place. So that is pretty much it. That is how I do my ballasting. And like I said, I'll come back in my next video and we'll go through how I do the track weathering like that, which is used obviously using my airbrush. But I have got obviously all this bit to ballast, all that piece down all the way down to there, and this some of this side track that you can see here going up. So I've got quite a bit to do, so I should come back to you later on another day when all this is dried and I'm free to do all of the weathering, because I'd like to do it all in one go, because I've still got that whole section down the end there needs weathering as well. So rather than get my airbrush out 2 or 3 times, I'd rather do it in one hit. So I'll see you soon, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.